Okay, looks like it's all good. So that's good.
Yay!
Let's just take this moment to connect with one another and truly just connect with the divine that is within each and every one of us. Keep in mind you didn't birth yourself, your parents didn't birth themselves, their parents didn't birth themselves. The earth, the universe, cosmos, the solar system, nothing birthed itself. So we're looking back to the principle of Swayambhu, which is self-created. Something beyond the way that we experience, something that is kind of the magic behind all of life. And what we are pointing our mind towards. Not only do we want to see the origin as Shiva, or Swayambhu, self-creation, the consciousness of infinite goodness that has simply exists as itself. But we want to see all forms as extensions of the divine, whether or not they are in conscious recognition of that. So let's just take a moment and consider that. Let it sink into our minds and our hearts in whatever way is useful for us. Take a couple deep breaths. Let us invoke the presence, grace, energy, and consciousness of our Guruji, Sri Swami Purana Maharaj. Without his physical presence as well as energetic, none of this offering would even be possible. All of the teachings and mantras that he has given us that has benefited us in so many ways. Just having a lot of gratitude for the ways in which he expresses and helps people to see beyond their limitations. We ask also for the energy and blessings of Ganesh and Hanuman to be with us. Let's set our intention to be focused on connecting with the divine love, the devotion to that divine love. Divine in that sense, meaning perfect, complete, pure, no ulterior motives, a love already that most people don't understand in life, a love with no ulterior motives, a love with no power play, a love with no viewpoint, rather than complete and total graceful openness and acceptance for all. A love that has no requirements on you. It's not hoping that a bird is a different bird by tomorrow. It doesn't hope that a person evolves nor not evolves. It simply provides every possibility for life, growth, development, movement, And it's up to us to make a choice the way we want to go. So much freedom. So working towards the knowledge, towards the jnana, towards complete service requires complete devotion. They all go hand in hand. If you know whom you serve, if you really know the divine, then the devotion is there and the service is there. Service never fails. The karma yoga never fails. The jnana, the knowledge, the wisdom, the seeing, the experience, that's what I mean by knowing. I don't mean information, knowledge, or that type of knowing. I don't mean knowing about. I mean jnana, which is the knowing by being. So when you let go of yourself, you become this. That is the jnana. You have to completely submerge to attain that jnana. You don't get it by reading. You don't get it by hoping. You don't get it by thinking. You get it by a choice and effort to work and to get every single artifice or structure that breaks you from the whole to dissolve. Everything that you're fighting for that's not really the truth, we're trying to let those things go and stand up and connect to the eternal. So the goal, the super jnana, the main aim of this, when you really know what it is and you've had the experience of it, your devotion will be undying. So it's not something that fluctuates. The karma yoga that you do will be undying. It doesn't fluctuate. When you know, you know. When you don't know, karma yoga fluctuates. Your jnana is fluctuating or questionable. Maybe it's not even there. And the devotion, the bhakti yoga, that is also going to be vacillating because it's not able to be there consistently. This is the normal state of people, inconsistent realization or lack of realization. So in the Ishopanishad, this is actually a small kind of thing. This is a lot of it so big here, but it's commentary. And when I say big, it's very small. But in terms of what was there and how it's been expanded, it's very small. So the vision of Brahman. The Upanishad teach us how to perceive Brahman in the universe and our self-existence. We have to perceive Brahman comprehensively as both the stable, meaning the formless reality that never moves, and the moving, which is everything that you're acquainted with, except you don't see it as Brahman, you don't see it as God, you see it as table, chair, books, people, society, coronavirus, politics, presidents. You see it as everything other than what you're supposed to be seeing it as. And so you have to change the view, which requires an immense amount of compassion and softness and love within the heart, and a choice to know no matter what obstacles come your way. And that's usually where the difficulties arise, but all of us have within us this ability to strive and grow in that way. So we have to perceive God, Brahman, God, comprehensively as both the stable and the moving. We must see it in the eternal and the immutable spirit, and in the changing manifestations of universe and relativity, which means that everything that you can see, taste, touch, experience, think of, feel, emote, sense, you have to actually perceive it to be God. So, not everything but that person I don't like, not these people I like but not politicians, not politicians but my family. You have to have extensive knowing, jnana. You have to experience no wall, no boundary, no partition between you and anything else, which means at that level, there is no you and everything else. There's only Brahman. That would be Brahman consciousness. If you meditate into the silence, you feel all the presence of the changing, moving universes. And if you're interacting with the universes, you feel the silence, like it's all God. both ways. So there is no one side is God, one side is not. It's not a question of is non-duality a God path, or is tantra a God path, which is recognizing all forms as a doorway to God, and ultimately God itself, where we would worship a plant as God, a bird as God, a whale as God, air as God, fire as God. We even have God names for them. So, we have God names for them because they don't come from us. The materials come from what? Even if you want to say they come from the laws of science or from quantum mechanics or from the subtle realms, well, what built the subtle realms? You might say the higher divine principles, the dharma, the sanatana dharma. Fine, what built that? Or what is that? So we make a lot of statements that we don't understand. We make a lot of judgments and ideations about things, but we don't really know. Upon deeper investigation, you may even realize the truth of what you state in ignorance becomes more clear, but now as experiential fact rather than something where we're just kind of extrapolating and projecting and hoping for the best. So to do this would be referring to the whole path. This would be purn path, purna, whole, complete, the whole thing, missing nothing. That means love goes everywhere. So consequently, these teachers can oftentimes be very confrontive, but that's because they only come with love. So what's confrontation when there's only love? Other teachers may hold a lot back because they're afraid of offending, or they might attack in a way of saying, my religion's right or my dharma's right, because they don't really understand. So it comes from ignorance, or it comes from even prevention of harm, ignorantly so. They just don't understand. So, but one who is everything can completely approach you and communicate with you, and you may take it bad, but it's only coming with love. So you have to be able to expand, come with love and see. So we have to perceive all things in space and time, the far and the near, the immemorial past, the immediate present, and the infinite future, with all of their contents and happenings as the one Brahman, one God. We have to perceive God as that which exceeds, contains, and supports all individual things, as well as the universe, transcendentally, of time and space and causality. We have to perceive it, or Brahman, also as that which lives in and possesses the universe and all that it contains. This is the transcendental, universal, and individual Brahman, Lord, continent, indwelling spirit, which is the object of all knowledge. Its realization is the condition of perfection and the way to immortality. And so the next part, those were verses, commentary on some of the verses, vision of Brahman, that's our goal. So then the next part, this is going to be talking about it more than the actual verses, but verses 6 and 7 of the Ishopanishad is on self-realization. So then it's saying, well, how do you realize Brahman? If you're feeling what you feel and you feel everything around you, what you do is you essentially try to find the goodness in everything. Overwhelmingly so, where the negativity impressions in the mind and the heart and the soul, the senses and the body, the organism, the psychology, everything starts to kind of buffer out or soften. They weaken. Then they don't hold such finite forms or definite shapes. As you do that, you get closer to realizing your very own Atma. Your Atma kind of is Brahman and isn't Brahman. If it was, they wouldn't have Brahman, they wouldn't have Atma or Atman and then Paramatman, which means beyond Atman. They wouldn't come up with these terms. They even have Brahman and Parabrahman, but that's just getting more confusing. So the point is that your Atma is kind of like, you can call it a bubble, but it's not really. I mean a lot of things when I'm saying this, but it's like a bubble that is completely clear, transcendent mirror upon which it sees the entire cosmos within itself. Everything it sees is clear, outside and inside. There is no threat. Doesn't matter if there's a gun, there is no threat. Doesn't matter if there's an angry person, there is no threat. Doesn't matter if there's unkind words, there is no threat. Doesn't matter if somebody's very loving and sweet and kind, there is no threat. There's no threat because there's no, perceived separation. Everything is within me and I am within it. So your nature is reflected in it and its nature is reflected in you. It's almost like infinite soap bubbles, but an awareness pervades it. So that's an experiential, phenomenal point of view of Atman, which is not the only one, but could be seen as this kind of ricocheting of the artifact of mind that is still apprehending the Brahman consciousness, but with somehow this formulaic mechanism that helps to separate, divide, and interact with a different understanding with the cosmic indwelling understanding. So it can be kind of a confusing thing to hear, but when you continue to knock those walls down, you can look at that almost as a refinement of your experience of Atma. And as you get closer to no more bubbles, no more walls, no more independent or individual existence, then the Atma reflects more clearly the nature of Brahman. And then when you're at that level of Brahman, then it's a different thing altogether. So instead of coming as a body and saying, yes, it's all the Lord, I see it all as the Lord, and the Lord is in me, and I'm in that, and instead of coming from that perspective, there is no me, it's all the Lord. So that's where there's a difference between an ascending master or soul, guru from that chain of events, versus a descending master or soul, one who is incarnating. It's like the Brahman incarnating through all of the koshas, all of the coverings, the vehicles, the body, incarnating, taking on a body. The sea of consciousness, or the ocean of consciousness coming through human form, versus a soul that is ascending, that gets to that realization that they know they are everything, but they still function here, mostly. So very different, very different. It's been defined as a great chasm of a difference, like not even comprehensible. So no amount of thinking about it will make it happen. But thinking about it does help to neutralize our current perspectives, and that is an immense benefit. So it's not a waste of time to think like this, which is the reason why in any type of talk on the higher substance of dharma, you're in effect neutralizing a lot of the normal ways of thinking, feeling, and related, which is why this stuff is even out there, because it has an impact. If all beings that were at that level knew that there's no impact in talking about it, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have written stuff about it. They wouldn't have talked about it, they wouldn't have taught it. So their communication is of great importance because it tells you that the way that you're thinking, if not aligned with this, is only going to be basically separating you and causing yourself trouble. It's going to be making you not feel infinite love because you've chosen to pocket yourself down into a small incarnation, forgetful to your entire nature, and then experiencing things as separate, which means they're either going to be of a benefit to you or a threat to you, or somewhere in between, which means they're not really benefiting me right now, but they're not harming me, so where are they going to fall? Where do they really stand? Which is actually interesting when you look at things just from a psychological perspective. And once relationships are formed with I'm not sure where it would fall, it starts to fall somewhere. This person's majority harmful, majority and the lack of majority non-harmful, or vice versa. It starts to fall somewhere, it gets categorized. But we want to, regardless of the manifestations of any human being, animal, plant, tree, element, we want to see the divinity shining through, because that's the way to get to Atma. You want to feel yourself as a clear reflection of the cosmos, and the cosmos is a clear reflection of you. So it's an interesting phenomena, and it may not stick, but it's an interesting phenomena where you feel yourself as, adjacent to or directly connected to infinite, pure, clear soap bubbles, so to speak, of Atma. And when you look at the world of form, it feels completely within yourself, not outside. It's almost like you see the fragility or the membrane that separates the two as not even there, because that's there and that's there, so that's nothing. The little wall isn't even there. It can play and be there, but it's not there. So you get to play with it there, but it's not there. So that's what I said by the awareness pervades through it all. So that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to knock down the walls of the way that we think and feel and act, behave, relate, believe, even your impressions of God and the divine, even your impressions of self and others, and traditions, religions, gurus, everything. We want to knock it all down. We're not here to build story and imagination, but we may use those as ways of knocking down the lesser stories that we hold on to within ourselves, which is the nature of sadhana. So we hold on to something that is more growth-oriented and fruitful, other than what we hold on to that might be more causing a state of groundedness or decay, or like lethargy or loss of spiritual attunement. So it's really so many beautiful teachings. I just figured I would read that because that's like a reminder of what the aim is. And it's stated in the Upanishad. So when you are reading it, a lot of it you have to understand to take what you can usefully out of it. But sometimes reading commentary from enlightened masters, this is from Sri Aurobindo. So, and it's just on that one book, Ishopanishad. So it's talking about basically how God is everywhere, and that everything that you see is in flow, with the divine. So even if we kind of do something or don't do something, it's all kind of in one sense, kind of in the flow. On another sense, it's an aberration depending, on karma. But when we are attuning to all these great bhajans, we're coming from beings who are at this level of consciousness, or maybe not there, but well past a lot of the normal consciousness of humanity. And some beings weren't in some cases, but who cares? It's all saying good stuff, so send it on. So then when we are focusing in this way, we're all trying to follow this path that nobody really quite knows, and that's what the padukas are. Those wooden sandals represent so many things. Personal for Sonu as a guru, but also the impersonal path, the journey of the invisible. You kind of listen to a deeper inner voice, and it may not even be the right voice, but you're listening to it. And you'll, through your life, figure out if it's the right or the wrong voice. No one can know right off the bat. Nobody, by the way, knows right off the bat. It's a process of trial and error, experimentation. But we still follow some kind of seeming sense of direction. It's like, do I go right? Do I go left? Do I go forward? Do I stop? Do I go backwards? Do I go forward? Like, we don't really know what we're doing and where we're headed. But the beauty of following a path like this is that, hey, it's your life, it's your path. Try. Do what you're going to do. The results will be occurring, positive or negative, and that's how you adjust. But so when we follow this mysterious, grace-filled, invisible path, which is represented by the padukas, it's a reminder of why you're on earth. You're here to follow this path. It may not be a path that has to be dressed up in the Upanishad, but it can be in a different tradition, religion, or culture. It doesn't matter. But the essence is the same. You feel two things in your life. You feel divided and how uncomfortable that is and how you don't want to do that. And then you feel states where you're increasingly more unified. And it feels so lovely and connected and beautiful that you couldn't ask for a better life direction. So you pick. Do you want a life that has a lot of walls up and separations within yourself and externally? Or do you want to create a unified life where you try to see the divinity within all things, so that it's all seen as kind of at least somehow sharing a foundation that you yourself have. You don't have to see it as exactly yourself right now, because that's a big step, but you're trying to see at least some degree of a similarity of foundation. For instance, if you take away, on the outset, we look different. There's an Isha, there's a Brian. But if you take away the Isha body, you take away the Brian body, then you could say, well, you're different as souls, minds, psyches. Okay, fine. Erase the psyche from both. Erase the emotional content, the history, the past, all the incarnational history, all the karma. Erase mine too, please. Erase the soul. Erase my soul. Erase every bit of expansion and contraction I've ever had, and hers too. Then what's left? So when you choose to hold on to the form because superficially it looks valid, you're rewarded separation. The idea and experience of a separate object that you now have to interact with a separate type of a mindset and heart set and soul set and physical sense set. You are setting it up for separating. Then there's another way of doing it, which is where you're looking for the common denominator, like we were just doing as a sadhana, as a practice, which is you're looking for the highest truth amongst us. And we do this with all of you. And with inanimate objects, though that's hard for people to do for whatever reason. It's almost a pride, egoic identity pride. I will not see myself as just as valuable as an electrical socket. So then fine, be separate and be better than an electrical socket and never see God there. The thing is that there is no electrical socket as such, nor is there a human as such. Where did you come from? Where did the electrical socket come from? Even if you say that people made it and the elements were all composited by factories and, all that kind of nonsense. You're just developing a bigger story of how things are all very separate from one another and cannot share the same name, the same root. We're looking for the root of all creation, mula, the mul. That's why you see some of the mantras, the mul mantra. You're trying to point back to the root of creation. Consequently, all of these books are doing it, our sadhana is doing it, positive attitude is doing it, transcendentally focused, I should say, positive attitude is doing it. But the other stuff is good too. If you can be positive at any time, it's great. And all of the kirtanam and the chanting, all the mantras, all helpful. It's taking your energy and lifting it towards places where there are less boundaries, less walls, less limitations. You can't say you want no limitations right now because you don't know what that means. You're a limitation, stuck in separation, stating you don't want that. You don't even know how limited you really are to state how you don't want to be limited. All you can really pray for is less limitations. And not so much by, I don't want to be limited in my artistic ability. I mean, who wouldn't say that? But that doesn't grant you liberation. I don't want to be limited in how people see me. That's useless. They're always going to limit you how they see you. But how you experience life, to choice not to be limited to that, that's the beautiful path. It's not about how the world responds to you. It's not about anything that people would normally want. It's about your own personal gyan, your own personal experience, your own choice to see everything as Brahman, as the immutable, unmanifest, you can call it backdrop if you will, but there's no back, so there's no backdrop. It's all made up. But the stable that supports all of this movement, everything that's moving and talking and animating, there's something that doesn't move and it holds it. That's Brahman. So still, so stable, it's even more still and stable than the space that holds it. Space holds the air and all the other movement of elements. We think of that as very still, but it's not as still as you think. It has movement. Mind is even considered above it. All the chakras are representing that. This is the order of their manifestation process: consciousness, mind, then it goes space, air, fire, then it goes water and earth. So all the elements that you perceive are all nestled underneath and extensions of that consciousness. They're all eyes, faculties for you to see from, not objects to look at. It's a very different way for people to think. So anyway, this is the beauty that you're needing to keep in the mind fresh all the time. So when we're chanting and singing and meditating and breathing and just sitting and thinking and contemplating on our life direction and personal experience, then we should be, kind of chanting all towards that upward, positive momentum of our higher goal. So that's the, nature of this, of our sadhana, together and as well as individually. So we come together collectively so we can do collective sadhana. You can't do collective sadhana always because not everyone around you wants to do sadhana. So you're limited. Individually, if you've noticed, you don't even want to always do sadhana individually. So you're limited. Until sadhana is not a thought and it is what it is, but not just saying that, but as it being authentic, real. Then these things don't matter. Until then, they matter very much. It matters on the state of who you are that day, to the efficiency of your own spiritual practice. It matters on how you balance and keep your own mood afloat, as well as your own mindset and the way that you experience this life. Did you overindulge? Did you restrain some indulgences so that you can get your momentum moving forward? It's a choice. Everything that we're doing, it's pretty much, you have all these elements to manage. That's why Swamiji calls it all, Purna health management system. He says it's a management process. You have to manage your body, so you have to choose to take care of it or not. It's up to you. If you don't, then you get the results of not, and if you do, you get those results. So it's a choice. Emotionally the same, life direction the same. I can choose to be here, my life will be as such. I can choose to go to Canada, my life will be as such. I can choose to go to Wuhan, China. My life will be as such. So go wherever you want, do whatever you're going to do. There will be some effect, whether or not you want it to be, whatever it turns out to be. But in general, when we are doing a collective practice, we are all trying to kind of choose the same destination. And as we attune together, we get a collective power. And that's why I was reading it, so we could all get the same focus, so we get a collective power. And this increases the level of sadhana, the different degrees of the possibilities of tapasya, which is a very powerful focus, where you just kind of sink into the vibration of that cosmic spirit, if you will, that is not different from you, but at first may be perceived to be as such. So we'll, keep that as our goal, as the focus, and then as we go into the rest of the practice, just keep that going as that greater intention. So if we say anything, you probably have to do through the mic, because they might not hear. They're working.
So we'll chant Om 3 times together. Purnamidam Purnat So we completed the official release of the Hanuman Arti song today, which was really nice to be able to complete that process and share that with everyone. It was a really wonderful experience having that song come through during our last Anustan. And as we had shared, it was actually a huge breakthrough for us in completing and producing a song entirely ourselves, something that has been a good song.
At least what we feel is a good song.
Entirely ourselves, yes. For me, that process in the past has been very intimidating. And it was a really beautiful experience just because we really actually had no choice but to produce it ourselves. So, because at the time, all other options were not available to us. So, unless we just paid some random, producer to complete that for us, which for us, we'd really like to keep it as much in-house as possible so we can really be true to the energy that is trying to express by means of Somaji's blessings and grace. So I had a lot of resistance to jumping into that process, and I've had a lot of resistance ever since I've been I'd been in schools, studying music. It was always a huge resistance for me to sit down and at a computer and compose with different software instruments and create a sound, full sound for a song. And
like the difference of starting a book and finishing it.
Yes, it is. Brian said it's like the difference between starting a book and finishing it. So usually, I usually just compose the song, and then everyone puts their parts in, and then we usually hand it off to be produced by Dave. And at this point, it just wasn't possible. And so I decided to sit at the computer, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm just going to do it. And to be honest, it's just a true testament to, the power of, grace and divine inspiration, because really, Somaji and Hanuman, connecting to that energy and that divine servant, that divine devotee, who stops at nothing. Somaji has said before so many times, if do you think if someone asked Hanuman, if Ram asked Hanuman, can you go do this for me? Hanuman is going to say, oh no, oh no, oh no, Shri Ram, I have limitations. No, I can't do that because I don't have the skill set for it. Absolutely not. Hanuman would never say that. He would do everything possible in his power to be able to fulfill whatever wish Lord Ram would have for him. So in that spirit, I sat down at the computer and connected to Swamiji. Prayed, please God help me. And it was an amazing, magical process. And for the first time in my life, I was able to sit and produce and create something where we were actually happy with it.
We've created many things in the past, but each time we're like,
yeah,
it's okay.
It's like, this is just not gonna work. It doesn't sound very good. So this is the first time that we were able to actually complete that process, together. And so we are really, really happy, to be able to have that, come through to serve the Dharma in whatever way that should. So we're going to play the Hanuman Arti right now.
Let's maybe do a quick volume check.
Oh, quick volume
Make sure
check.
everyone can
Yeah.
hear.
So
On
just
yet
to make
another
sure.
platform.
Yes, on yet another platform. And again, thank you all for your patience as we find the best streaming platform to share the best quality that we can, to you with our with the satsangs that we hold.
Looks like Kelly gives many hands up.
आरती कीजे हनुमान लला की दुष्टत नर रघुनाथ कला की आरती कीजे हनुमान लला की दुष्टत नर रघुनाथ कला की आरती कीजे हनुमान लला की दुष्टत नर रघुनाथ कला की आरती कीजे हनुमान लला की दुष्टत नर रघुनाथ कला की जय हनुमान Jnanam Madhura, Jnanam Madhura, Madhura Vipate, Agilam Madhura, Jnanam Madhura, Jnanam Madhura, Madhura Vipate,
chant Om Shanti 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 to close together. Peace to all beings in all realms. We'll do it 3 times.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti,
And let's just have our prayers in front, or the hands in prayer in front of the heart center, and just intending to send love to one another and peace, relaxation, kindness, softness, warmth, serenity, just that transcendental love and openness. Let's just invite the grace into our heart to live there forever and to continue to grow and flourish, to bloom, to fruit. All of the aspects of dharma. Namaste, and have a good remainder of your evening. And if you want, you can either now, before you leave, you can let us know how things were, if there's any adjustments we need to make or think about next time. If you're not in that right, headspace, that's totally fine. If you wanted to send us an email or something to let us know, we're always in the process to get better at streaming.